The whole system is designed to steal, censor, and control. That's it.
What happened in Lebanon?
If you were saving in US dollars, they were illegally converted to the local currency, and that hyperinflated. When good people are forced to do really bad things, with things that you don't hear about in the media, we don't want to live through this because it's coming. This is not isolated to Lebanon. These images, they haunt me at night. It's very hard to relate to a story like this, but you don't want to wait until that happens to believe what I'm telling you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill.
1, secure the money. 2, secure your digital environment. 3, move. It didn't destroy me. On the contrary, it weaponized me as a tool of education to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. And so my role here, my mission, my objective is to teach and to empower every single human being who wants to help themselves learn how to do it. Because once you understand these skills, you're untouchable, or you are unconfiscatable, extremely powerful, and in the eyes of many that hate you, very dangerous, because your life literally depends on it this time around. It's not just like an optional thing that you have to consider.
I know you've got a lot of experience in Lebanon and what happens there, but what's Bitcoin mean to you and why is it so important right now, today, in the global macro environment?
Bitcoin is extremely important to me because it's the only way I'm going to cement my freedom and not allow anybody to take that away from me ever again. You have to go through like extreme pain to understand where I'm coming from, which is why my trust level in the traditional system, governments, banks, and all that is not even at zero. It's sub-zero because it is a system that is categorically created to steal. It's a system created to control and manipulate. There's absolutely nothing good in the system for anyone that's not part of the club that's printing this rubbish. And you have to understand this. It has to click in your head that this is the truth. This is not just someone saying something just for the sake of sounding cool or smart. This is the reality, and this is starting to manifest itself in many more cities globally, and it's coming everywhere at some point. So Bitcoin is the only option that you have finally, for the first time in the history of humanity, that you can save your time and energy, your money. You work all day for a currency that has no value, that's printed by somebody else whenever they feel like it, and that's stolen from you because of rules of someone else, right? So how is that a win-win situation? People on the fiat systems, you are literally unknowing slaves, because whatever income you make is taxed. That's theft number 1. Then it's debased. That's theft number 2. And then whatever's left, you need permission to use it. Theft number 3. So logically speaking, why would anyone with common sense want to, save in that rubbish? It makes no sense. All the odds are against you. So take your time and energy out of that corrupt system, save it into Bitcoin in a currency that is yours, 100% yours, not 99% yours, 100% yours. But it's a new currency, and it's based on technology. So that means that you need to learn how to use it. In the same way you learned how to use a credit card, you weren't born, you didn't figure out how to use a credit card when somebody just gave it to you. You learned how to use it. So in the same way you learned how to use a credit card or an ATM machine, you can learn how to self-custody your Bitcoin. It's not nuclear science. It's just something new. But because it's based on technology, a lot of people are not very comfortable in that world, and I get it. So this is why we put together the Bitcoin way, in order to handhold anyone who's willing to help themselves into understanding how to protect their money. And so we guide you through step 1, 2, 3, 4, until you have an airtight, bulletproof system that exactly lets you sleep well at night, regardless of what's happening in the outside. You don't need to focus on the Bitcoin volatility price. That's expected. as we transition from a legacy system into a brand new one, it's not going to be smooth sailing. It's not a light switch. It's a transition. And obviously, the other side doesn't like that transition. So they are going to start throwing out roadblocks and doing all sorts of shenanigans in order to slow down or prevent the transition. But that's not working because more and more people are aware of the fiat scam, of the fiat theft. And they're like, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm out. And so they're transitioning. But, throughout this time, you have these ups and downs. But as you zoom out, there's way more ups than downs, especially if you listen to those that have already been living on a Bitcoin standard. For them, life is cheap and in a lot of instances free because you're saving your money in a currency that appreciates, right? So if you're buying something, let's just give you like a simple example. You've got $1,000 in your bank account and $1,000 on a Bitcoin wallet. You buy, I don't know, like a pair of shoes for $100. In that same moment, your bank account and your Bitcoin wallet, they drop to $900. But a few hours later, or maybe the next day, Bitcoin pumps. Your bank account is still sitting at 900. Your Bitcoin purchasing power in that wallet has gone up now to maybe 1100. So what does that mean? Essentially, you've gotten those shoes for free and you have more spending power because the asset that you're holding is going up in value. It's not going down like that worthless currency in your bank account. So, but that's it's such a new concept. When you hear somebody saying that, you're like, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's simple math. You have an asset, Bitcoin, that's a finite asset that nobody can print and that everybody eventually is going to want because nobody can control, nobody can manipulate, nobody can weaponize, nobody can sanction, nobody can do anything with it other than use it and hold it and save in it. That's it. So it automatically castrates all thieves, criminals, and corruption because they can't use it for their purposes anymore. It's done, which is why governments and central banks, they absolutely hate it. But there's nothing they can do about it anymore. In its infancy, when it was born, like maybe 2009, if they were paying attention to it in the same way they are now, maybe they could have done something to disrupt or kill it. But fast forward 15 years, forget it. That's never going to happen now. There's no nation state capable of doing this because of the amount of massive decentralization that Bitcoin has gotten to, and more importantly, the attention that it's garnering. Like even now, I mean, there's it's state governments are accumulating it, countries are mining it. The big players are in it now. So whoever was like before, it was the cypherpunks and the people that were protecting the network. Now you've got nation state big players that are heavily invested in it. Do you think they're just going to let it free fall? No.
They can't.
Yeah, technically they can't. But at some point, I expect there to be official country laws and regulations criminalizing any attempt to disrupt the Bitcoin network. Can you imagine going from where we are now into
Oh my
attacking it
God.
to at some point establishing, excuse me, nation level laws criminalizing any attempts to screw around with the Bitcoin network? Because now they're so heavily invested in it and it's like such a fundamental part of their economy.
Wow.
That anyone attempting to disrupt it is considered an act of it's a crime, like theft.
Yeah.
Okay, I expect that to happen at some point. So the idea of Bitcoin being a scam, going to zero, whatever other nonsense it's still circulating around, all of that is you have to stop listening to that rubbish because that's all it is. It's distraction, it's noise, it's lies and propaganda from those that don't have any Bitcoin, and their interests lie in protecting the other system, the legacy system, because that's where their wealth is. So they want to know nothing about something new that's going to obsolete what they have now, because now they're going from being super rich to super nothing.
Mathematically certain.
Yes, 100%. So this is the time frame that you have to be strong and be patient as we move from point A to point B. And this is where a lot of people that don't understand money, don't understand any of the stuff that I've just mentioned, they have a hard time doing it. And so whenever they hear some bad news, they get spooked, they sell, they end up losing money. And, that accentuates their bias. Oh, it's a scam, it's a this, it's a that. It's not. You got spooked, you made a bad decision, you lost money. That's it. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It has to do with you.
Yep.
So how do you fix this? You sit down, you do the work, you read some books, you learn, you listen, you ask people that are in the space, that are, trying to help, trying to push out the right education, and you absorb that information, because they are doing this for your own good. They're not doing it for them, they're doing it for you, so that you are in a position to be the captain of your own ship. This is what we do at the Bitcoin Way.
Yep.
Like, that's all we sell is knowledge. Because we don't control anybody's coins. We don't sign any transactions. We don't do any of that collaborative custody rubbish. We teach you how to do your own self-custody, so that the only human being on this planet that you can trust is yourself and your immediate inner circle. You don't need to trust some faceless institution. You don't need to upload tons of identification to some faceless institution for the illusion of being safe or having it be convenient. You don't need to do any of that. You're smart enough to learn it on your own and make sure that it's 100% safe at all times. Anyone can do it.
Wow, that was a journey, and everything you said is 100% factual. The fiat system, which is currency, the dollar, whatever money people are using, is literally going down to zero. One of the things, Tony, that you were saying is, and I could feel it when you were saying it, is the traditional system causes a lot of pain. It's caused you a lot of pain. As we transition to this new system, do you see there being more pain or less pain for people? Like, what's the go there? Because
unfortunately, yes, there's going to be a lot of pain for a lot of people, especially those that are unaware of what's going on around the world. What happened to me, what happened to Lebanon, Venezuela, all these countries, it's not exclusive to these countries. The mechanics behind that collapse exist globally. The US dollar is on its way out. It's as clear as day. Fiat currency is being debased at an accelerated rate, and they are stuck in a position where they have no choice but to continue debasing it in order for it not to collapse in the next 5 minutes. So that translates into, unlimited money printing, because if you don't print money, then, literally in the next 5-10 minutes, the whole thing blows up. So, it's a system based on debt, and, you have to keep the lie going, as long as you can. And the only way you're going to do this is by printing and printing and printing. So that benefits those next to the money printer, because obviously they never run out of it. But, your average Joe working from morning to night, he's going to get decimated, because the more they print, the less he can buy. And at some point, his $10,000 in the bank will have a purchasing power of $10. And what are you going to buy with that when you go to the supermarket and they tell you, sorry, you can only buy a box of toothpicks, so
on that, like, people here, oh yeah, like $10,000, and that, like, you're just talking words, I guess, from like a privileged position here in the West. But like, what happened in Lebanon? What are these things? Like, what are real world examples? Like in Australia, we're not feeling it like that. So that's not something that we've really ever experienced. It's not something that I've experienced in my lifetime, but it is something that you have experienced. So could you actually share?
It was a gradual thing. It's a gradual thing. The way it started over there is that at one point, the credit card stopped working. So everything was normal. You wake up the one morning, you're trying to buy stuff, regular stuff, and there's like technical error with the credit card. It's the card is not passing. They're trying to pass it at the teller. It's not going through. There's a problem with the bank. All right, no problem. Try it again. Doesn't work. Try another card. That doesn't work as well. Okay, maybe the bank is having a bad day. If you happen to have cash in your pocket, you'll pay for whatever it is and you'll move on. But then it wasn't isolated to one person. Then all of a sudden, like there's like hundreds of people complaining that their cards are not working. So maybe there's like a telecommunication issue in the country with the banks.
Yeah, we had that actually like last week with one of our big four banks. Yeah.
Okay, so that happened in that moment. You think, okay, maybe it's a glitch. But then that glitch carried on for the next day and the next day and the next day, and then before you know it, the card, if you let's say you had like a spending limit of $3,000 on the card, all of a sudden that was reduced to $1,000. Why? No reason. Okay, then that $1,000 the week after came down to $400. And then a few days later, 200, all the way down to zero. You can't spend on the card anymore. Card doesn't work. You need to go take out cash from the bank machine in order to buy your goods. The cards don't work. So you go to the bank machine to take out cash. There's a limit now on the cash withdrawals. You can only take out $400 a month. Even if you have like millions in your saving accounts, you can't take it out. You go inside the bank, try to argue, sorry, we don't have the money. The regulation, blah, blah, blah. And then no more money. Everybody was locked out of their savings account. If you were saving in US dollars, they were illegally converted to the local currency, and that hyperinflated. So if you had $1 million, just to give you like an easy number, $1 million US in a Lebanese bank, it's now worth like I don't even know if it's worth $50 now. That's what happened. Okay, so you had millionaires and billionaires who were living like kings and queens, and literally from one day to the next, they were homeless, zero. So what does that do? Not to become too morbid here, but what does that do? The psychological impact that does on a human being is like a horror movie you've never seen before. The rates of suicides that have happened when good people are forced to do really bad things, when you hear about people, walking into banks with guns to take back their own money, are these people now criminals? Of course not. What did you expect them to do? They have sick parents at home that are dying of cancer. They have children that need to be fed. And you're telling them they can't have their money that they've worked their whole lives saving in your bank. And now you're telling them, no, sorry, I can't give it to you because I don't have it, because I lent it out to a corrupt government that lost it. So, of course, you're going to have people walking into banks with guns asking for their funds back. And they're not asking for somebody else's funds back. They're asking for their own savings back. And that's just one example. Things that you don't hear about in the media because these crooks also censor everything out because they don't want the world to know what's really going on. But you can't censor human beings. You can't censor the internet. There's always going to be a way to pass out the information. So whether it's done on the internet, whether it's done through people that have lived it, like myself, that are sharing this experience with you, the news is going to come out. And eventually it spreads far and wide enough that enough people click. And they're like, we don't want to live through this because it's coming. This is not isolated to Lebanon. So when I say it's a horror movie that nobody's seen, believe me, it's a horror movie you've never seen before. People have set themselves on fire in front of my own eyes. These images, they haunt me at night because the pain was so much. They don't know what to do anymore. If you're a young person and you're a strong enough individual, you might rise up and figure something out. But when this thing happens to you when you're in your 60s and 70s, and you've got a whole line of dependents on you, what do you do? It's very hard to relate to a story like this at the level that you're supposed to relate to it unless you go through it, unfortunately. So, you can tell the story, people will empathize in the moment, But then, they go on about their lives because for them, everything is okay still. But then when the storm comes their way, that's when it really solidifies. But you don't want to wait until that happens to believe what I'm telling you, because by then it's too late. Most people are going to do it anyhow, because it's just how human nature is, unfortunately, which is why I say most people are likely to get completely destroyed before they learn. But the problem with that destruction is that it causes a scenario that's unsafe. When you have like a horde that's hungry and ups and pissed off, you can expect anything. Okay, so when you're living in a country that's owning 300 to 400 million privately owned assault weapons, and you put a scenario like Lebanon in it, what do you think is going to happen? See, this is what I'm trying to get at. And a lot of people, like, this whole Mad Max scenario is so foreign, so far, because the sun is still shining, they're still going out at night having their drinks and steaks, and life is good. So that scene is so unfathomable, but it was the same way to the folks in Lebanon who were also living like kings and queens.
Yeah.
And just like a shadow in the middle of the night, it came out of nowhere. So you either wait and hope I'm wrong, I don't think I'm wrong, or you take precautions ahead of time by opting out of this system that is going to lead to your financial destruction.
Yeah.
If you don't lose your money in the bank by being hyperinflated, you're going to have it confiscated, or worse, converted into a central bank digital currency, which translates in your life being over, tied to a digital ID.
We got digital IDs 2 weeks ago. They just passed it,
Yeah,
and to legislation and to law.
So it's not
It's
about
voluntary, actually.
For now. For now. So this is not a message. It's not about spreading doom and gloom. It's about spreading a reality
Awareness.
that is spreading at a faster rate. If you're paying attention, you know what's happening. If you suffer from the ostrich syndrome, where you're going to put your head in the ground and pretend everything is rosy, then you're gonna wake up one day and a bunch of hyenas are standing there right behind you, ready to tear you apart. And that's
one thing. Sorry to cut you off, Tony, but one thing on that is people are so busy running that rat race. Obviously, like, we're experiencing incredible amounts of inflation, even here in Australia, everywhere around the world is. So they're so busy, but if you are listening to Bitcoin for the first time, these words we say are truth. It's not fear-mongering in the slightest. And it's a step in that direction. And so what if we're wrong and you only start saving 10% in Bitcoin, but then we turn out to be right? And that 10% is 100% of your wealth. Well, you're not going to miss that 10% if we're wrong. But from all the time and study and, like, these words Tony is saying, this is why every single day, Tony, I bring you up. What you guys are doing, like your mission, for everyone out there, just like buy, stack, and chill, or study Bitcoin as much as possible. Because these things aren't like a hypothetical, that they've happened in Lebanon. And whether like the digital ID bill in Australia or CBDCs, it's progressing over time, whatever is happening. Or Bitcoin is just a superior form of savings technology, and you're sweet. Like, there's no lose or anything if you take the time to study.
The mold that your money needs to be controlled by a government, by a central bank, by somebody else, that mold must be completely destroyed and never allowed to be put back together, because this is not a mold that's good for anyone. It's something that obviously leads to corruption, to theft, to crimes, to all the problems you see in the world right now. They're all fueled by that fiat system, nothing else.
Yeah.
So you cannot trust any human being with money. You just can't. So Bitcoin was designed to remove that once and for all, the separation of money and state. You're responsible for your funds. Learn how to do it. It's easy. Once you get the hang of it, you'll be hitting yourself for not doing it much sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and there's so many things that like come into Bitcoin as well, and people like, oh, that'll never happen. It'll never be the money, but its adoption curve and the way it's scaled, and as its price exponentially increases. Like at the moment, it's people choosing it as its money, but everything that you said that happened in Lebanon, that's happening here, that's happening everywhere. Bitcoin's just going to keep growing, refine itself, and become this new reality. And it's not maybe, like it's already on that path.
Absolutely. And I mean, the attention to what's going on starts with the money, obviously Bitcoin. But, once you go down that rabbit hole, it also, brings your attention to other things that's going on. Like, what about all the excessive mass surveillance? That's also a problem. Your life is under a microscope. You can't do anything without, somebody knowing about it, or, somebody giving you permission to do it. So, like, what kind, like, you think you're free, but how are you free if,
Yeah.
if all these things are happening? So you
So
have to
just
take measures to protect yourself. It's not optional anymore.
yeah. So like, what's something easy like for every single person? Maybe they're already into Bitcoin, but social media tracks us. What? But so technology is being used to do that. There's certain technologies or like a certain couple of things that could be like takeaways that people can implement now.
Well, I mean, to wean off of the system that you've been used to for decades is not going to be easy for most people, but it can be done. I mean, our approach, here at the Bitcoin Way, step one is to protect your money, to show you how to protect it into self-custody. So that,
Yeah.
again, like, you're sleeping well at night, no matter what happens on the outside, your money is safe. That's priority number one. Once that's taken care of, we zoom outwards, and now we go ahead and we protect your the equipment that you use, like your computers, your phones. We set up a shield that that engages the uses of multiple kinds of advanced VPNs, modern firewalls, all of that stuff that's always running in the background on all of your systems, regardless of what internet connection you're connected to. So you no longer have to worry, is the Starbucks Wi-Fi safe? Is my hotel safe when you're on vacation? Like, you don't have to worry about any of that. We have services now that are completely streamlined and installed and function in the background 24/7. So you can go anywhere you want, plug into any internet connection, knowing that everything about you that you're doing on that device is completely cloaked. So you are as close to ghost as you're possibly going to get with a system like this. And we've dubbed it, ironically, we've called it Casper, the friendly ghost, because we take care of all
Cool.
the wizardry in the background. All you have to do is use it. And I mean, once it's in play, you'll likely forget that it's even on, unless you know specifically where to look to check. But it shields you from, I'd say, 99% of everything that's out there. Protect you from SIM swaps, trackers, blockers, like all of that rubbish is blocked in real time. It includes real time AI threat detection, so it's extremely powerful, extremely fast, highly recommended. So that's usually our step two. And for those that want to go even further, we can now assist you in relocation. Like, if you want a second citizenship somewhere that protects your freedoms, that respects your money, that's not going to rip you off in taxes, we can help you find that location. We offer that service. So it's like a three-step process. One,
Good.
secure the money. Two, secure your digital environment. Three, move if you're no longer feeling safe where you currently are. All of these three things tie into the whole theme of sovereignty. And this is really what we're about, and what we continue to fine tune and facilitate for anyone who's interested in protecting themselves, on that front.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill. Well, that's incredibly thought out, but that is literally the 3 steps to being a sovereign individual, a free human.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And once you become that sovereign individual, it's it's an extremely powerful position to be in. You are unconfiscatable, extremely powerful, and in the eyes of many that hate you, very dangerous, because now you cannot be controlled anymore. Your money is yours. They can't threaten you with it. They can't spy on you because you're cloaked, and they can't abuse you because now you live in a country that protects you from that abuse. Right? That is what they call fuck you money. So that's really the end game to anyone that, wants to live a dignified life, wants to protect their family, wants to live like a free human being. You have to, unfortunately, we are living in a world where these things are no longer luxuries. They are almost a requirement now. If you don't do them, you're just setting yourself up for failure, in my opinion, anyhow.
Well, it's that's it. Like that's
It's
the
a
whole
lot to take
point.
in.
It's more important than ever. And like I guess in Australia, like we've got the safety commissioner here, and they want to choose like they're saying things, and maybe this is a little bit of a misquote, but they want that maybe free speech, or we need to reconsider what free speech is in an online environment. Something around those lines. That's not exactly word for word. And then there's that interesting thing with Elon Musk, and he circulated a video and got into a fight with the Australian Prime Minister, as well as the e-safety commissioner, because he wouldn't take it down. Then he followed the Australian law and he blocked it just in Australia and let it circulate. But those things happening, when you go down that path that you just described, that information, or I guess if they're choosing or trying to dictate what can and cannot be said on like a micro level at the moment about like irrelevant things, like, the video was nothing, who cares if people saw it, like most people can think for themselves, everyone can think for themselves actually, and everyone should think for themselves, and whatever we're showing, if it's truthful, is what's happening somewhere in the world at some stage. But I wonder if they're going to ramp that up, and if they do, when you go down that path that you just described, it doesn't really matter if they do, does it?
Absolutely not. And the thing is, they shouldn't be allowed to do this. I mean, people should be up
No,
in arms, just at the
but they
mere
sneak it through.
mention.
Nobody's really aware of this stuff going on.
Yeah, but okay, I mean, even if they sneak it through, the reactionary response should be strong in order to obliterate it. Like you cannot let this thing slip and remain in place just because they did it. Like it's and as long as the people don't react, what do you expect? What do you expect to happen? Like
Yeah.
if a bully comes up to you and starts bullying you, like what are you gonna do? You're gonna let him bully you? Okay, right. So a bully preys on the weak. A bully preys on the weak. So these people are preying on the weak, simple minds of the people.
They're also keeping them that way by keeping them busy.
Yes, of course. But that whole system, the whole fiat system, is the rat race. When you're distracted, when you're busy running on that hamster wheel because you can't afford anything, then you have no time and energy to think, right? And so you remain stuck like a hamster on that wheel forever. until something major happens that knocks you off that wheel. But that major thing is going to destroy your life. So it's not like, yeah, let's wait to happen, then we'll deal with it later. If it happens, you're finished. That's the problem. When you
Yeah.
go from having your entire life savings reduced to a big fat zero, you don't know what to do. You literally
Yeah.
have no idea what to do. It's like a sledgehammer to your face. The shock, you'll be in, first of all, you'll be in shock for a long time because you just can't fathom that this just happened. And then how you come out of it, that depends on each individual. Most people cannot come out of it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So, like these things cannot be allowed to happen. When you have a criminal organization doing literally whatever it wants, it's
Yeah.
up to the people to destroy them. You can't keep them there just because they're hiding behind the title of government. These are human beings, bullies, criminals, thieves, call them whatever you want. These are not good people. So, in the same way, if a bully comes up to you and harasses you, your job is to destroy him completely so that he never comes back. So, you cannot let a system bully you. It's the same thing. But so many people are so fearful of this title of government that they remain frozen in place, taking that abuse year after year after year, complaining about it, thinking that the solution is to replace one piece of shit by another because they're going to make better rules. That's not how the game is played. The whole system is rigged. The whole system is designed to steal, censor, and control. That's it. It doesn't matter what color you put on it. The mission, the objective is the same: steal, censor, and control. So if you don't want this, the entire thing must be destroyed and replaced by something that does not allow it. It's the only way. You cannot negotiate with tyranny. You cannot you cannot take your way out of tyranny by having a sweet conversation over dinner. It's not the way it works. When a bully comes up to you and harasses you, you destroy him. That's the only way you're going to get rid of him. You're not going to negotiate with him. Oh, please don't hurt me. Please don't take my lunch, right?
No
Because that's
wonder
only good.
everyone thinks we're crazy, Tony.
Well, because a lot of people just don't want to, maybe don't want to deal with that reality, or just are fearful of that reality. But the flip side to that coin is that if you do nothing, you're going to get destroyed by that bully. It's as simple as that.
To destroy that bully, all you need to do is like start with step one is spy. So like it can be as easy as that. Just start saving in Bitcoin because it's going to destroy itself ultimately anyway. Like
Literally, with sticks and guns and knives. I mean, like,
that's what I think.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, some people might like that approach, and that's fine. But with Bitcoin, you literally defund the system and destroy it that way. Like if everybody opts out of it, um, what's it going to do? Nobody's using it anymore. So it just self destructs on its own.
Time out for 2 secs. Holy shit! I need a piss, but I need to get a jumper on. Holy fuck, that was so deep, bro. That's wow,
Well, I mean, you either call things as
man.
they are, or you pretend we're in Disneyland here.
Tony, like you're saying, people will empathize in the moment. They won't carry that on because they can't experience it for themselves. Like, I hope I can carry on this feeling. Like, I have no idea what that was like for yourself. And thank you so much for sharing. It's intense, man.
Well, it is very intense, and it took me a very long time to come out of that darkness that it put me through. I had a choice. I can either go, the dark, dark way and just not come out of it and give up, or I can choose to not let them win. Because at the end of the day, I have people that depend on me. So, what kind of example, what kind of role model, what kind of name do I want to leave behind? This is really what it came down to. And so, what this did, it didn't destroy me. On the contrary, it weaponized me as a tool of education to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. And so, my role here, my mission, my objective is to teach and to empower every single human being who wants to help themselves learn how to do it. Because once you understand these skills, you're untouchable. So that's really what it comes down to. But it does require you to do the work because your life literally depends on it this time around. It's not just like an optional thing that you have to consider.
When you spend thousands of hours diving down into these deep little rabbit holes of Bitcoin, you realize like it's not like it's not a drill, it's not optional, it's not a joke, and if we're wrong, it's not a bad thing either. Like Bitcoin's number go up technology, it's an incredible place to be. But to hear those
Bit,
things,
nobody has a clue what utopian world Bitcoin unlocks. Bitcoin, like most people are focusing on the money aspect of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin right now, if you really understand what it is, it's when the internet was first born, like there was only like one application on it, or like a bare bones version of email that, only people on command line can understand. And now the internet blossomed into this entire universe of a billion apps and technologies and layers flourishing on it that's almost as indispensable, if not more, than electricity. Bitcoin today is that bare bones email application when the internet was first born. What what's coming in that Bitcoin utopian world, you can't even imagine what uncontrollable money that's fine, it has a finite supply, what possibilities that unlocks for humanity, because it forces every single one of us to become a significantly better and more valuable person. Like your contributions to society will be forcibly better, because if you don't do it, first of all, AI is going to wipe you out. AI will categorically wipe you out. And if you're considering a stupid decision, you're going to have to mull it 100 times, because if you go through with it and you are wrong, no one's going to print the money back to you. That Bitcoin, those Satoshis that you spent, it's a one-way street, buddy. No one's donating it back to you because of that retarded decision that you made, which is why corruption, crime, most of these, world problems that we have today will almost literally disappear because you can't fund them anymore. So I'm very optimistic. I'm extreme. Like I wake up every morning, like completely fueled and powered up to go on this, because I can see where we're headed, and I can see how this transition is taking place. It's very exciting, even though sometimes it's frustrating because some people still don't get it and they argue based on silly things. It's the farthest thing from darkness. In fact, this is the light.
they're coming. Let's pay attention to what it is. And then you're like, oh, yeah, like it's not that scary. Like I can see just how to work around it in whatever way, and then come back to truth. Like, how does it get any better than that, man?
Look, there's nothing more empowering than being the captain of your own ship.
Yeah.
There really isn't. You are in full control of everything about you, about your life.
Yeah.
What better position to be in? You are literally your own king. I don't know if it sounds like a bit too good to be true, which is what so many people, why so many people stay away from it. I think, like it could be something as silly as that. Like since they're so used to living in this hellhole that they're in, they're like, there's no way something as good as this can come along without you.
I've been there. Like you've been there, and it's freaking scary, man. Like I tried to hide away from it and drown it, and narcotics and things like that, because that reality, you're like, there's something wrong. but it's so hard and it sucks you in. And then you see people having a good life or whatever, and you're like, they did something bad, or we hear these lies, money is bad. Well, the currency people use, like, they're telling the truth. Like, their currency was bad.
The worst part is that these central bankers are actually mocking you now. I mean, the New Zealand one, he literally said it. He's like, yeah, and we print money, and they believe it's actually real.
The fiscal challenges, etc., that are there. So very focused on being cost effective. We actually fund ourselves and then work out what dividend is needed to pay. So we kind of it's a great business to be in, central banking. Print money and people believe it, and touch wood, and so it's a slightly different beast.
But it's not a joke. It's not AI. That is New Zealand's central bank governor, Adrian Orr. We print money. People believe it. It's a great business to be in.
Absolutely. Are you gonna let this dork, this clown, this monkey laugh at you like this? Because that's exactly what they're doing. And he's just one of the millions.
Every country around the world.
Of them around the world. So when you do your 9 to 5 thinking you're doing, something good for society, they're laughing at you. They're like, look at this donkey. He's working for garbage, and he thinks he's actually doing a good deed for society. That's exactly what they're saying and what they're doing. He goes, and on top of it, we get to rip him off for 30, 40, 50% because we're the government.
That's crazy.
Yeah, of course. So if you don't want to be abused like this anymore for the rest of your life, then get out of the system. You have an option now. For the first time ever, we have an option. If you don't take that exit, then it's on you. Don't blame anybody else. Don't say life is too hard, things are bad. Don't blame anyone. There's no one else to blame. Go find a mirror in that house of yours and look at it. And whatever you see in that reflection, that's the cause of your problem.
Everyone that's already here in Bitcoin's 100% taken self-responsibility. Somebody that's watched this video this long's taken 100% self-responsibility. But the general population, I find, aren't willing to. That's why I wake up every day, like, to talk to the people that are literally making themselves a better place, which will ultimately make the world a better place. Because on a Bitcoin standard, the people on it, every Bitcoiner you interact with, that they're based in reality, and like the longer they've been here, you're pretty sure they've been down one or two of the rabbit holes, and you've got this foundation. Do you think there's a way to get people to realize that aren't taking self-responsibility, or it's the government's problem, or she hurt me, he hurt me, my business partner stuffed me over? Like 100% radical self-responsibility is an absolute must, but I don't think most people are like that. Is there a way to do it, or is that like more of a messianic or a messiah complex where you just want to shake people and be like, hey, come on, like, please just take the time to read the book, so you're going to eat the bugs. Like, it's literally for your own good. But like, can we just flick a switch and get people to take self-responsibility, Tony?
Unfortunately, I don't think it's possible. Most Bitcoiners that you've encountered have had some bad experience in their life that shaped them, and put them on the path that they're on. Pain is your best teacher. Whether it's personal relationships, whether it's whatever it is, and the biggest, the most painful one is going to be the money. Because that's literally your lifeline. Without it, you're a sitting duck. There's nothing you can do.
Everything I've been taught, I want to question. Some things will be wrong. Some things will be wrong, but they work. I'll hold them for now, but I'll take note. And then there'll be other things that I know, for me at least, are fundamental until something contrary changes that belief. And if we for me at least, if we can look at everything with a perspective of, okay, like here's a piece of information, does it fit in to my framework of reality? If so, yes, and why? Or if not, why? And like either keep or discard, and sort through. And I think that's thanks to Bitcoin, I think has allowed me to refine that more and more.
I completely agree. With regards to the normie situation, I mean, have you heard of Mark Twain?
Of course.
Yeah, well, he had a famous line. He said something a long time ago that has always resonated well with me, and that couldn't fit more perfectly to answer that specific question that you just brought up. Is there a way to make people, change their train of thought? And he said, "There's the truth has no defense against a fool determined to believe a lie." Like that line is so spot on with what's happening like globally. So until people like willingly want to stop believing these lies and actually acknowledge that what they thought was normal is a lie, they won't change until something forces them to change.
Yeah.
And I think that force is going to come about when they lose their money.
And I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like that's probably going to be sooner rather than later. And so it's not fear mongering. But to me, it feels like it's inevitable. Whether it happens tomorrow or 100 years' time, it's not going to take 100 years' time. It's mathematically certain because they're going to continue to print because of the amount of debt that they have and because it's based on nothing. Being your own bank, being a sovereign individual, like first step is an air gap wallet, second step's a node. For everyone out there, like what's the point of running a node for being self-sovereign, but also like for the Bitcoin network in general?
Yeah, well, running a node is extremely important for the Bitcoin network is because every node that comes online significantly adds to the decentralization and the strength of the entire Bitcoin network. More specifically to you, though, with 100% certainty that the Bitcoin blockchain that your wallets are verifying against has not been tampered with because it's your own hardware running in your own home. And at the same time, you're not broadcasting your transactions on somebody else's node, on somebody else's devices. So whatever you're sending, you're receiving, all of that remains private because it's going through your own device, which is exactly where you want it to be, especially as the value of Bitcoin continues to appreciate. Like when Bitcoin's $1 million or more, trust me, you don't want to be shouting to the world what you're doing.
Just really quickly, like if it's $1 million, do you think it's going higher than $1 million?
Oh, for sure. Million is nothing. Million is like a speed bump. There's 8 billion people, right? There's 21 million, on paper. There's technically, realistically, like more like 17 if you factor in those that have been lost. Most people will not be able to afford layer one Bitcoin very, very soon. I think maybe even this year.
Yeah.
The layer one, the talking, I have Bitcoin, that vocabulary will disappear much sooner than most people realize. Bitcoin will likely scale, on the layer 2, 3, 4, whatever comes next, because, that's what people are going to be able to buy. Finding someone who has, let's say, 1 Bitcoin, wow, that's going to be like finding a needle in a haystack. It's like it's unfathomable. Like how on earth do you have a Bitcoin? It's like that's how valuable it's going to be. Because again, like as they say, Bitcoin has no top because fiat has no bottom. The global debt now is estimated around 900 trillion. But by the time Bitcoin is $1 million, that global debt is not going to be 900 trillions. It'll be maybe in the quadrillions. So put that into 17 million and look how much higher the value of Bitcoin is. But you really should stop calculating Bitcoin's value based on that fiat price. That's like the completely wrong mindset because like the natural state of the market is deflationary. Like, you have to start thinking in sats. Forget fiat. At one point, if you want to continue thinking in fiat, one Bitcoin will be worth like $10 trillion. But by then, the dollar is what? It's worth less than toilet paper. It's like Zimbabwean money, like they have, currency that says 10 trillion or whatever it is that they have. It's complete rubbish. It's just a paper, a decorative piece of paper that you can just like hang on your wall as a souvenir. But it will have no value. The mindset here is to think.
Well, it's already like that.
Yeah, the world needs to start thinking in sats and Bitcoin. Obviously, it's not going to happen tomorrow because most people can't do math, and that takes a bit of understanding to wrap your head around. But once you get the hang of it, it's a breeze. The prices of things comes down on a Bitcoin standard. They only go up on a fiat standard because the fiat loses value. So, when they, at some point, houses, real estate, those traditional assets that people are hiding their money in or think they're good investments, those are likely to get wrecked because the price of housing will come down to its utility value and will no longer be an asset of prestige or wealth preservation. It'll come down to its utility value because everybody should be able to afford a home. And unfortunately, there's a lot of folks around the world that can't even do this. Even in the West, in the States, in Europe, the young crowd, when they look at the price of the house and what they have left from their salaries, the scam money, they can't afford anything. They can barely afford to eat, depending on where they are. So the house is like, woohoo! That's like thing on the last thing in the horizon for them. It's like forget. It's like winning a lottery ticket, and that's not normal. So that's why things need to change and change drastically in order to reverse that tide and bring back hope and quality of life to everyone.
And I think once people actually just realize that Bitcoin is doing that, like it does it individually on an individual level, and like it'll continue to keep doing that. But once people actually just realize that's what Bitcoin does, it provides that hope and allows everything to get cheaper, it'll just keep getting quicker and quicker.
Yeah, I mean, people living on a Bitcoin standard are almost like they're living with a cheat code. It's funny to say, but it's almost like a cheat code because you realize that your life is becoming less expensive and oftentimes free while you're looking at everybody else grind and complain and whine and shout and yell at the system while doing nothing to help themselves come out of it.
Say with your services, there's a link at the top of the description. First 30 minutes is free. The incentive is to make the world a better place. Like it's on Bitcoin, it just gets better. If you have a better life, the world becomes a better place. Whatever way, just please like buy stack and chill. It's like it's not rocket science. It's not hard, but it's critically important. Hey.
It's absolutely important, and I urge everyone to seriously, at least at the very, very minimum, consider everything that we've been discussing on this podcast and to take measures to regain control over their life. Every single one of you is valuable. Every single individual out there has a role to play, especially if you've got a family and kids. It's almost mandatory that you do it for their sake in order to ensure a future that they can live as free individuals and that they're not stuck in a system dictated by someone that has no good intentions for them. So at the very least, keep that in mind and take the time to do the work. And if you need help, if you have questions, reach out. There's plenty of resources. We're here. We're doing this every day, helping many folks all over the globe get into self-custody, establish better guidelines and discipline in their overall online activities as well, And again, if you're not comfortable where you're living, you have an option to move. And there are people that can help you do that. We are one of them, and we'd be happy to have a conversation. The first 30 minutes at the Bitcoin Way is complimentary. It's free. There's no obligation on any front. Just, book a call. Let's have a talk. See where it goes.
Man, I think that's a great place. Like, for everyone, if you need to reach out, that link for Tony's at the top of the description. But Tony, like, for the work you're doing, for the message that you're spreading, for the truth that you bring into the space, for the help that you bring into the space, for having you in my life, like, I'm so blessed.
Thank you so much, man. I'm really happy to be here to talk to you. It's always good to spread, awareness as much as possible. Hopefully, if we can reach one person, that's good, because then they will likely spread the message to their inner circle, and slowly, then suddenly, we get to where we're going. Like I said, I'm very optimistic, very, very, very bullish and hopeful on the future, because I see we're moving in the right direction, and I see Bitcoin is winning and changing the world the way it's supposed to be changed.
It gets better pretty quick on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's just going to grow more and more, quicker and quicker. So the quicker you wake up to it, like, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve, ladies and gentlemen. The price you deserve is how quick you're willing to put in the time to study it, to read the books, or eat the bugs, or reach out to someone. Like, that's it. That's as complicated. The best way to accumulate Bitcoin and not wreck yourself is not to trade it, not to sell it, just save. Just whenever you get fiat, save in Bitcoin. And that's as hard as all of it needs to be. And you get fabulously wealthy in every single way in your life.
100%. Bitcoin is the currency of the future. Just hold it until you get to that future. And it's coming up much sooner than most people realize. So it's very easy. It's 3 steps. 1, custody your money, protect it. 2, protect your devices online. 3, move somewhere that respects your freedoms and your rights if you're not happy where you currently are. That's it.